In 2018, Google canceled an AI contract with the Pentagon because its own employees refused to help build military technology. Back then, being a tech company that worked with the military was considered toxic. But today, the companies behind the apps on your phone, the AI you use every day, and the cloud storing your data are openly racing to build the future of AI warfare. And just 7 years later, tech investors have poured over $14.5 billion into defense startups in the first 5 months of 2026 alone. So the same industry that once refused to build military AI is now chasing billion-dollar defense contracts. So what changed? Is it just money, or is it something a lot more uncomfortable going on? Now, to understand exactly how your everyday technology became weaponized, you first have to look at what happened in February 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. Because within months of that invasion, we saw the future of warfare right in front of us when a $500 drone destroyed a $5 million tank. And not once, but over and over again. Now, for decades, militaries believed the future belonged to bigger ships or bigger tanks or bigger fighter jets. But suddenly, a cheap drone carrying a small explosive could destroy equipment worth millions of dollars. That changed everything. Ukraine started producing hundreds of thousands of drones, and then AI entered the picture. For as little as $25, Ukrainian forces began adding AI guidance systems to drones. And you started to see strike accuracy jump dramatically. And today, drones are responsible for an estimated 70 to 80% of battlefield casualties in Ukraine. Think about what that means. The most effective weapon on the world's biggest battlefield isn't a fighter jet, it isn't a missile, it isn't even a tank. It's a flying computer that costs less than an iPhone. And that was the moment Silicon Valley realized something. Modern wars aren't just being won by bigger bombs anymore, they're being won by better software. And software happens to be the one thing Silicon Valley knows how to build faster than anyone else on earth. In 2020, venture capital invested just $1.5 billion into defense startups. By 2025, that number jumped to nearly $10 billion. And in just the first 5 months of 2026, investors poured another $14.5 billion into the sector, already more than all of last year combined. And while established giants like Palantir locked down multi-billion-dollar military contracts, a new wave of venture-backed startups like Anduril, Shield AI, and Saronic suddenly became the hottest investments in Silicon Valley. And this wasn't just niche venture capital anymore. Even JP Morgan, one of the biggest investors in the world, was now betting on defense technology because they all realized the same thing. The customer wasn't consumers anymore, it was governments. Now, the thing about governments is that they love to spend. And even if they don't have the money, they'll print it anyways. Global military spending just reached a record $2.89 trillion. The United States alone is on track to spend more than $1 trillion on defense this year alone. And it's not just the US. Europe is rearming at the fastest pace since the Cold War. Japan is increasing military spending. China is increasing military spending. Almost every major power in the world is pouring more money into defense. And unlike consumer spending, governments don't stop buying because the economy slows down. If anything, they spend even more. Now, imagine you're a venture capitalist. You can invest in another app, or you can invest in companies selling AI, selling drones, or selling software to customers with trillion-dollar budgets. Suddenly, Silicon Valley shift starts making a lot more sense. But there's still one question everyone's asking. Do these tech billionaires actually love war? Personally, I think the entire framing of that question is wrong. The thing is, venture capital doesn't care because it doesn't chase ideology, it chases opportunity. And right now, defense offers something almost no other industry can. Trillion-dollar government budgets, customers that don't disappear during recessions, 10-year contracts, and demand that's growing instead of shrinking. That's an incredible business. And that's exactly what companies like Anduril, Palantir, and Shield AI are building. They're not just selling weapons, they're building software platforms for the military. And it's the same business model that created some of Silicon Valley's biggest companies. Except this time, it's with governments as the customer instead of consumers. That's the shift. Tech billionaires didn't suddenly discover war. They discovered that modern warfare had become one of the biggest technology markets in the world. And whenever technology transforms an industry, capital follows just like it always has. So here's what's happening now. The next Lockheed Martin might not look like Lockheed Martin. It might look like a software company. Palantir builds AI targeting systems, Shield AI builds autonomous drones, Anduril builds everything from cruise missiles to battlefield operating systems. And these aren't traditional defense contractors, they're technology companies. And they aren't waiting for the government to tell them what to build. They're raising venture capital, they're building products first, and then selling them to the Pentagon. Anduril used private funding to design and field the Roadrunner, which is a reusable drone interceptor. In just 2 years, the Pentagon rewarded that with a $250 million contract. That model, build first, sell later, is how consumer tech works. It's how Uber and Airbnb worked. Now, defense startups are doing the same thing. And during the Iran war, the line became even blurrier. Iran didn't just threaten military bases. It publicly identified companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Nvidia, and Palantir as military targets. And they actually struck Amazon Web Service data centers in UAE and Bahrain. The distinction between a technology company and a defense company is now starting to disappear. So here's where people get scared about this new shift. When the most profitable new market in technology is warfare, the incentive structure changes. The companies building autonomous weapons have the same lobbying incentives as traditional defense contractors. They have the same interest in big military budgets and the same financial benefit from geopolitical tension. Right now, 60% of all defense tech funding is going to drone startups. And autonomous systems are being designed to operate at speeds where human authorization becomes, in the company's own words, a constraint on performance rather than a safeguard. Even the UN Secretary General has called for global rules for autonomous weapons. The problem is the industry moves so fast, no one's really taking action. So now, the people in charge of the largest venture capital checks in the history of the sector are building systems that by design are intended to make killing faster, cheaper, and more efficient, and with less human involvement, not more. Now, I don't think tech billionaires suddenly woke up one morning and decided they love war. I think they realized something that changed their entire investment thesis. For decades, technology transformed banking, then retail, then advertising, then transportation, then media, and each time, venture capital followed the same pattern. Now it's happening to defense. If a $500 drone can destroy a $5 million tank, and governments are spending trillions of dollars a year, the customer isn't consumers anymore. It's governments with budgets measured in trillions. And Silicon Valley sees the same opportunity it has always chased, and it's doing what it has always done, following the money. The uncomfortable part isn't that tech billionaires are investing in defense. It's that one of the fastest growing industries in technology depends on the government spending more money preparing for war and building more efficient systems to kill people.